and a good afternoon from wherever you are joining us from in the world. My name is Rebecca Albin, and I am the OpenLMIS Community Manager, and I'll be facilitating the webinar today, where we'll be introducing our newest user-centered features for the OpenLMIS 3.6 release. And we've got a great set of presenters here with you today who are excited to talk to you about all of our new and exciting features. But before we dive in, I just wanted to touch on a couple of logistical notes so that you know how our webinar is going to run today. The first thing is that due to the high number of participants on the call, we're going to try to keep most folks muted throughout the presentations. So it'll be more of a presentation style webinar and less of an interactive discussion because of our high numbers. However, we do encourage people to communicate through the chat function that will be open the entire time. And you'll have the opportunity to present questions to the group. You can select either to send a message to everyone in the webinar, or you can select individuals to send messages to. If you have any logistical or audio related issues, please send an individual message to our associate Sierra, who will be managing the chat from behind the scenes to make sure that everyone is well connected and able to hear the webinar. To use the chat function, you look for the little message icon at the lower right-hand part of your Zoom screen. After the webinar, we will be circulating all the materials from the webinar, and that will include a link to this recording, the slides, some reference resource links, and we will also be writing up answers to any questions that come in through the chat today that we don't have a chance to cover in our Q&A section. So we realize that there'll be lots of questions that we won't be able to cover during the live webinar today, but we do encourage you to write in your questions and give us your feedback, because we love to hear from you, and we can answer those questions in writing and circulate them to you after the webinar. Advance. Okay, so our agenda for today, we will start by giving a quick introduction to what OpenLMIS is and how it works. And then we're going to dive right into the exciting part and learn about what's new in our 3.6 release. We'll have a number of short presentations by multiple presenters who will talk to us and give us live demonstrations of a number of different functions. And that will include our stock management function, our new reporting capabilities and visualizations, the ability to handle commodity kits through OpenLMIS. Also to information about our DHIS2 integration and a new hosting capability that we'll be rolling out soon. So after all of these short presentations, we will use the remaining time that we have left to cover any answers that have come in from the chat throughout the webinar. So first, I'll just introduce today's presenters that we have. I'm pleased to say that we have a combination of OpenLMIS stewards and OpenLMIS partner organizations that have come together today to put together this webinar. Myself, I'm the first person that you see on this slide. I'm Rebecca Albin. I'm the OpenLMIS Community Manager. Next, we have Wes Brown, who is our OpenLMIS Product Manager, a fellow steward. Next, we have Elias Munele, who's from John Snow Inc., and he is a software engineer for JSI. Unfortunately, Elias has come down with an illness unexpectedly, and he will not be able to present for us today, unfortunately. We wish him well. However, we do have someone to cover his material for us. Next, we have Craig Apple from ONA, who is their health technical lead, and he'll be talking to us today about our new reporting and data visualization capabilities. We have Josh Zamor, who's our OpenLMIS architect, and who'll be talking to us about DHIS2 interoperability and our kitting capabilities. And lastly, we have Dan Kokos, who is the Chief Technical Officer at Bao Systems, who will be talking to us about our new hosting capability. So again, I wanted to extend a warm thank you to all of our presenters and let them know that we appreciate their time and their efforts for presenting this webinar today. So I'm just going to get started now and do a quick introduction on what OpenLMIS is, and then we can get into more details with our further speakers. So OpenLMIS is a web-based open source logistics management information system. That's what the LMIS stands for. And the goal of OpenLMIS is to help its users to order and to track their public health commodities, which can be anything from malaria bed nets, vaccines, to essential medicines. And the system is designed to tell you how much product you have currently and how much product you will need in the future to help you avoid stockouts in your system. And this type of information is really crucial for decision makers to be able to react to and respond to in their supply chain. So some of the benefits of OpenLMIS compared to a paper-based system. The first is improved data accuracy. And that's not just through digitizing the data, but also through automated calculations and built-in data quality checks that are within the system. It also improves data timeliness. And we found that having this high quality digitized LMIS data makes it much easier and faster to send routine reports and share data overall. The system also has ways to increase accountability. It actually dedicates certain roles and responsibilities to individual users, so that it is known in the system who is responsible for certain tasks, such as approving orders. And lastly, and probably most importantly, the overall effect of OpenLMIS is to increase data visibility. It ensures that decision makers at all levels of the supply chain know what their stock levels are, where they're too low and risking stockouts, and where they may be too high and risk expired products. And having this information digitally at people's fingertips allows decision makers to be able to react quickly and respond appropriately to optimize their supply chains. This next slide is just a quick snapshot of where we are as an initiative and where we'd like to be. The blue countries that are highlighted are where we currently operate, and orange is where we hope to be moving to soon. Actually, Angola is, it's highlighted in orange, but it technically could be blue. We've just started our pilot there and are expecting to roll out nationally starting in August. So we are excited to have Angola on board as our newest implementation, and you should be hearing more information about that through our OpenLMIS channels soon. Just to give you an example of our overall scope, OpenLMIS manages logistics processes for over 11,000 health facilities across Africa. And that number is growing every day as we continue to expand. To answer, the quick answer to the question of who we work with is that we work with governments, funders, and implementing partners to develop the OpenLMIS software and to deploy it on the ground in countries. This slide offers a little more detail of who exactly those partners are, and I'm not going to go into each one, but really just wanting to highlight at the top, we see the partners highlighted in orange are known as our trusted partners. And those are the organizations that actually deploy OpenLMIS on the ground. They're experts in technology, in global health, and in supply chain, and know the system intimately to be able to deploy it. The other partners in the lower part of the slide are our funders and our thought partners who contribute their time and ideas to the software and are incredibly valuable to our open source community. I'm just going to do a quick rundown of OpenLMIS's principal features. However, I will not go into that much detail because you'll be hearing more from our other speakers. So the first couple of features on this list are requisitions and order fulfillment. And those are sort of the bread and butter of OpenLMIS. And they involve lower levels of the supply chain requesting or ordering stock from higher levels, like a district warehouse, for example. So this function really allows the flow of products from different levels and ensure that they are flowing in the right quantities and at the right time in our digital system. The stock management function allows you to see real-time data on stock availability. So we have online stock cards, and there's the ability to update your physical inventory at any time. So you're documenting all of the ins and outs of your stock in real time to allow you to always know how much you have and not have to wait till the end of the month when you're reporting to know what your stock status is. Next is the analytics and reporting functionality, which allows you to collate data into custom reports and dashboards and see data in the way that's most useful for you. And we'll see a demonstration of this a little bit later from Craig to show you what some of these reports look like. They're very, very cool looking. The mobile integration that we have with OpenSRP allows us to connect dispensing data from the patient level with our supply chain data. So when a commodity is actually dispensed to a patient, that data updates within OpenLMIS. And lastly, I'll touch on the CCE equipment feature, which allows us to track our cold chain equipment inventory. And we also have some functions to monitor temperatures remotely through an integration with NextLeaf. So we can tell whether our vaccine refrigerators are within the proper temperature range. So that's just a very quick overview of OpenLMIS's principal features. And lastly, I just wanted to highlight something crucial about this system is that it is highly configurable and was designed in a way to make it flexible and easy to cater to the specific country contexts. So all these different variables that you see on this slide are things that are easy to configure based on what a country needs. So if it wants to have one or multiple program areas, depending on the reporting schedule, we can change and configure to that. The levels of the system, locations and names, all of these variables we understand are different in each country, and the system can easily be configured to meet those needs of particular countries. So now I'm going to turn things over to Wes to talk to us about what's new in version 3.6.
Thanks, Rebecca. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Hello, everyone. We're so glad to have all of you here on this webinar. So if you can go to the next slide, I'm just going to be sharing very quickly about some of the new features that we have in our latest release, which is version 3.6. Version 3.6 is the final release in our ongoing project that is actually just wrapping up called the GAP project, which has been going on for more than a year, which has been worked on by the development partners that you see above. So JSI, Village Reach, Soldevelo, and ONA. And these are the teams that have been participating to develop new features in OpenLMIS and to continue the maintenance of the product as well. And so as the last release for the GAP project, we do just want to thank all of our development partners. We could not have got as far as we have gotten over the last year plus on this project without each and every one of you. So thank you for your involvement. For this last release, version 3.6, that is the last release of just the GAP project. We're going to continue to do development after this. But for this release, we got through 258 issues. And I'm just kind of highlighting that because it's actually, we got through a lot of work. Most of that was task-related work, so work on new features. You can see 161. And then the next big bucket was also fixing some bugs. So we got a lot done in this release. Okay, you can go ahead to the next slide. So some of the major features that we worked on, there were some other things kind of behind the scenes that we're not going to touch on today, but the major user-facing features you can see listed here. So for the notification improvements, we did two different pieces. We added what we're calling a consolidated notification or a notification digest, which is within the system, rather than getting individual notifications for every single action that happens, you can get one notification which includes the details of lots of different pieces of information. Like, for example, all of the requisitions that you as a district person would need to approve, or yeah, all of the orders that you need to fulfill, those kind of things. So rather than getting 25 individual emails, you would just get one with the information that you need. And we also added the ability to receive notifications via SMS rather than just email. And so those are things that can be configured by a user, so they can specify for which kind of notifications they would like to receive SMSs, or whether they would just like to continue getting emails. The next area that we added for 3.6 is the ability to support multiple suppliers for a single requisition. So this means that a requisition can be fulfilled by multiple supplying partners. This is something that can be configured by administrators of the system, so that they can specify exactly which products would get fulfilled by which suppliers. The next feature we're calling kitting, and a kit is simply a product which contains other products. And so we have included within OpenLMIS the ability to create these kit products, but then we've also added the ability to do what we are calling unpacking a kit, which would be opening up a kit and then taking out the individual products that are contained within and adding those to the facility, to the inventory at a specific facility. That will be something that will be touched on here shortly, one of the demos that we'll be giving. Also, we've been working on the first half of our DHIS2 integration, which is the report generation piece. I won't touch on that too much because we'll also be giving a demo on that a little bit later. And then the last major feature that I wanted to highlight is not something that people normally think of as a feature, and that is performance improvements. But if you're a user, this is definitely a feature. This is something that makes a big difference. So we've been focusing on performance improvements in the requisition area of OpenLMIS. And we've seen some performance gains just in terms of the actual page load times and user-facing systems. And we're going to continue to work on that for upcoming versions, because we know that this is a really important thing for all of the users of the system. So this is something that we're continuing to make big improvements in. All right, the next slide, please. So we're going to be playing you a demo, and we weren't brave enough to try to do this live, so the demo is recorded. But I will just give a brief overview of an example OpenLMIS workflow before we go into that demo. I think for many of you, this is very familiar, but just in case you're not quite familiar with what OpenLMIS is automating and how it tends to be used, I'll just go over this briefly. So OpenLMIS tends to be used acquisition and fulfillment workflows at a country level. So this is just one example workflow. As Rebecca mentioned, OpenLMIS is very configurable. So if you don't have all of these steps, or you don't have all of these roles, or if you have additional ones, the system can be configured to adapt to meet your needs. So just to walk through this really quickly, in many countries, we'll see this kind of workflow where you would have a storeroom clerk who would submit a requisition for new pharmaceuticals or medical supplies that would then go to an in-charge nurse or some kind of supervisor at a facility level who would authorize that requisition. Once a requisition is authorized, it would then move up the chain to a district level user who would then approve that requisition. Also, each one of those users could make changes if they needed to based on their knowledge of what the facility or the district overall needs. That would then move on to the warehouse, where a warehouse clerk would release an order. Once that order was delivered to the facility, then a facility person would be entering a proof of delivery to confirm that what they received is what they expected. And so if we go to the next slide, I think a video will start, and we'll see a demo of some of the stock management and ordering features within OpenLMIS. In this demo, I'm going to show some of the basic stock management features and show a little bit of how those stock management records will factor into the requisitions that a user would create. So I'll start by logging in here as a vaccine nurse. This is running on our demo site. Any of you could access this if you wanted to as well. After logging in, you see that I come to the OpenLMIS dashboard, and I'll just highlight that the menu items that you see here are defined by the roles that I have. So as a vaccine nurse, I have access to stock management, requisitions, and orders. If I was a different type of user, I may not have access to stock management, or I might be able to see reports or administrative screens. So to start, I'm going to go to the physical inventory screen. And after this loads, we'll see that it's automatically picked up my facility, which is Macau 2 in the Koompah province. And it can see that I have access to this EPI program, and it knows that I have not yet started a new physical inventory. So I'll click on the Start button, and this will load the page to show me exactly what stock the system thinks that I have in my facility. So I can see here that for each product, it has the number of stock on hand. In some cases, products don't have any lots, there's no expirations or anything like that. But if we see here for this BCG, we can see that it actually has some that have no lot, but then some others that have a lot and an expiration date. And in which case then the quantity that's shown here is actually the total quantity of all of these items. So the use for this page is, as a user, I would be going through and looking at the stock in my inventory to see how much do I actually have. And then this page is designed to make it really quick and easy for me to enter in the actual stock that I have. So I could just be typing this in, 78, 45. We'll use this as an example to show what would happen if I didn't actually have as much as I thought I did. So when I did my count, I actually came back with 80 instead of 89. And we can see here that the unaccounted quantity is actually showing me that, hey, there's 9 that are missing. So in this case, I would actually want to go in and say, well, I think 9 of them just got lost. I don't know what happened to them. So I'm going to add this in as a reason, and I can see that the reason is lost. I lost 9 of them. And so it can show me that now there's a total of -9 that I'm saying that there's a discrepancy here. So if I click this update button, I can see that it shows me there were 9 that were lost, and it also shows me that the unaccounted quantity is now 0. And this is what you want. You want to be able to account for everything. Either you have what the system thinks you have, or you don't, and you need to give a reason for why not. So as a user, I'm going to go through and enter in all of the stock for all of the products that I have in my stock room. So now I filled out all of the stock for the products that I have in my inventory. If I wanted to, if I had, let's say I had a product that was not in the list, I could add that product here. In this case, I won't need to do that. So I'm just going to click the Submit button, and it's going to make me type in my name so that it can record exactly who filled this out. This is not technically required, as it does keep track of the user, but this is just another handy feature as well. So I'll click the Confirm button, and this will save to the database. And then after it's saved, it's going to open and show me the stock on hand page to give me an indication of the current state of the facility after having saved this new physical inventory. So here I am on the stock on hand. Once again, it's showing me for my facility, Macau 2 in the Koompah province, for the specific program that I'm looking at. And here we can see all of the different products. Once again, where appropriate, it's broken down by the lot code. So I can see the individual lots, as well as the total quantity for a given item. And when not, it's just showing a single line to show me that there is no lot to find. If I want to, I can click on any one of these individual lots and see the VIN card or the stock card, which shows me the operations that have happened to this specific stock over time. So I can see that way back in 2016, when this data was created, we added 28, and then just now we did a physical inventory and confirmed that that 28 was still on hand. And it shows here that this is the person who did that requisition. So if I go to create a new requisition, you can see my facility is already selected, the program that I work with is already selected, so I'll do a search to look for the next period that I can work with. You can see here, February 2017. And what it's doing in the background here is it's building the expected requisition. So when we look here, we can see each one of the products that have been defined as full supply products. These are products that a facility should always have on hand. And then we can see the beginning balance, and then we can see here's the stock on hand. So this is what I just filled out. So we can see that this value here is the total amount for BCG, or BCG 20 in this case. So it's not showing you the individual lot codes, it's actually showing you the total amount. Also, we've defined for these specific products an ideal stock amount. This is a configuration that we've set up. This is one of 2 different ways that we can use to calculate order quantities. So in the ideal stock amount, we can see that what it does is just very basic math, where it looks at the ideal stock amount. In this case, it's 3,300, and then subtracts the amount that's actually on hand, 166, to come out with the expected order quantity, so 3,134 in this case. The other method is to use average consumption. So it depends on the facility and the type of usage that kind of determines whether or not you would want to use one system or the other. So for the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to skip all of these except for a couple here. So I'll just say I'm not actually going to order 3,000 because that's a lot. So let's just do 250. As part of my normal working process, I would be entering in a comment to say, why am I entering in this specific amount? I'll say I'll take 100 of these as well. And so normally what users would be doing is they'd be going through every single one of these full supply items and making sure that the requested quantity is what it should be based on what they expect their usage to be. Now, as I mentioned before, OpenLMIS is configurable in terms of the process that you would use. So here, this button down here says that you can submit and authorize. And that's because on this demo site, we have set up requisitions to be automatically submitted and authorized at the same time. However, if you were in a facility where there was a separate person who was submitting the request as a requisition, and from the person who would be authorizing it, doing the initial authorization, then that could be two separate steps, and this button instead would just say submit. And when I click on this, it's going to say you want to submit this requisition, and after a moment, the save will happen. So now I can see that if I go up here, I can see the next period is available. Well, this is only available because this is in the past. But if I go to look at my requisitions and I select my facility, account 2, I'll see here that here is the requisition that I just created. And so once again, the connection between the requisition and the stock management was here in having this information about the stock on hand already pre-populated, so I didn't have to enter it again. That is just a brief overview of some of the features that are included with OpenLMIS, in particular the stock management and requisition features, and how those two features work together. If you're interested in a more thorough demo where we go into how the approval process works and how that flows into both an order and the proof of delivery, let us know and we can set up a more thorough demo for you in the future.
Great. Thanks, Wes, for creating that excellent video. It's very informative and great to see everything in action. I think one of the takeaways for me from that video is making the connection of how by using the stock management feature, it can actually simplify the ordering process because the system already knows what your stock on hand is, and it takes away that step of you having to enter that in. So it's really great to see that in action. Next, we're going to hear from Craig to talk to us about our reporting and data visualization capabilities. So I will turn things over to Craig from ONA.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Craig Apple. I'm the Health Technical Lead at ONA, and we were partnering to work on the data ingestion pipeline and analytics platform for OpenLMIS. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the data pipeline process. I will demonstrate some of the improvements that came along in 3.6, and then go into the system and show you exactly how configurable these dashboards are for users. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So we've developed an analytics infrastructure as a consortium, and this allows us to ingest information from OpenLMIS and process it so that we can perform reports on live transactions in near real time. The multiple pieces that you see in this analytics infrastructure allow us to systematically move the information across these different gates and technologies to ensure that we can organize and store the information efficiently in a data warehouse and provide a completely configurable and flexible solution for both the information storage, the information storage, the ingestion, and the visualization, what users see at the end. This analytics infrastructure has also allowed us to change some of the information that is coming in through OpenLMIS so that it can be modified and turned into open standards for output and consumption by third-party systems. We'll describe that process a little bit later. Next slide. At the very end of that pipeline is the ability to generate rich dashboards. We have embedded within OpenLMIS version 3.6 a number of dashboards that come with the build around core indicators and core reports that the community has deemed valuable. We also have the ability to auto-generate charts and configure charts using the superset open source technology. I'll go into that later in the presentation. Next slide. This is a list of available dashboards that ship with version 3.6, and I'll go through these individually in the live demo. They cover topics like timeliness, the status of individual stock items with drill down capability down to the stock item and facility level, consumption of those stock items over time, orders, any adjustments and administrative reports that you need from the system. Next slide. So beyond the visualization and dashboarding technology, we had two major improvements. The first one was we made a technical shift in some of the underlying technical dependencies that will improve the performance and sustainability of that data ingestion process in line with what was previously noted by Wes. We also developed a process for ingesting requisitions and then making them available using the FHIR standard for consumption by third-party systems. So with that, I'll go ahead and begin to share my screen for the live demo. All right, please confirm that you're able to see it.
I can see it, Craig.
Great, thank you, Wes. So this reporting menu item, as you can see here, I'm logged in as administrator, so I have more menu items than what was demonstrated in the video. And we're focusing in on the reporting menu item here. So I've pre-clicked on these links so that they're already loaded for the ease of the presentation. Each of these items is a report. Some of these reports output to PDFs, and some of them link directly to the dashboard. These first 4 reports were previously developed in the system, and they output PDFs that can be printed alongside, I guess, your OpenLMIS implementation. The remaining reports are actually links to the live dashboarding system. And what I've done is I've opened a tab for each of these reports, and I'll just quickly walk through some of the key attributes of each of these dashboards. So the first one is stock status, and I'll use this opportunity to share a bit of the navigation that we get from the superset open source technology. This is what we're looking at is a live dashboard that's running against the data warehouse. You have the ability to dynamically build this dashboard. Once you have the data identified and stored in the data warehouse, you can kind of mix and mash in this open source visualization platform the information however you deem fit, generate charts, and ultimately generate a collection of those charts into a dashboard. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing a table chart here and a filter, so that when we make changes to these drop-down menus, you're able to filter the charts that are on this dashboard. So this stock status report includes reporting timeliness, which is a key indicator to see how up to date this information is. And as we scroll down, we can see the status of stock over time, kind of at a high level trend, adequately overstocked or stocked out. And we can actually get down to the individual facility level and product level stock status. The underlying data is captured with the requisitions that are submitted, and it's pulled and ingested and stored in the data warehouse so that these queries are able to be run efficiently. We'll shift over to the stockout report, which has a similar header material. This reporting timeliness is a critical indicator to identify if the information you're looking at is actually recent. And what this report shows you is it shows you stockouts over time, and this is filtered by district right now. It also gives you an indicator on reporting timeliness for the district that you're looking at. The next item is a consumption report, and this shows you consumption by product over time. So you can see there's a full product list here. You can see by facility of that product, the consumption of those individual tracer products and how they've been, I guess, consumed over time. I kept saying that. The next item is orders, and this report identifies the total cost of orders. You can filter by facility, you can filter by processing period and schedule. You can also filter by geographic characteristics like region and district. This indicator shows, and you can see that it's a donut chart. It shows emergency versus regular orders, so that we can identify what percentage of the orders are actually emergency orders, which obviously is a risk to the health system. The last two have to do with more administrative tasks. This one is the adjustment report that identifies the reason for stock adjustments over time. So a particular facility has had to adjust their stock, maybe due to wastage, or a refrigerator stopped working. And so this is an aggregate, this shows aggregate information on those regions by facility, by processing period, so that you can identify what kind of products are being adjusted in the system. The final item is an administrative dashboard, and the first chart that's on it is really just the list of all of the facilities. You have access to the information in the system, and you can add to this dashboard as implementers based off of the administrative information that's actively stored in OpenLMIS. The final portion of the presentation on reporting, I wanted to just share 3 screens to show you how configurable the superset visualization engine is. So this screen, I'm logged in a different browser because I'm logged in as an administrator, and system implementers are able to have their technical teams build reports and dashboards in this user interface based off of the information that's already stored in the data warehouse. So what we're looking at here is a dashboard, which is the final display of what a user sees. And I just wanted to quickly show that you're able to, as a system administrator, just quickly edit the dashboard. You can shift the structure of the information. You can add charts to it, and you are able to kind of quickly move elements around this dashboard. When you go in a layer, the dashboards are made of charts. Charts are configurable through this user interface. You can link them to data sources, and you're able to navigate and just use a nice interface to develop the charts that you need to display on those dashboards. I wanted to just show the plethora of visualization types that are available for system administrators. This is always, it's really nice to be able to display information in multiple formats, and all of these chart types are built in. So if you have a data analyst, you can identify the best way to display the information that's important to you, and then work through these existing chart types to ensure that the recipient can best understand the information that's in OpenLMIS. The final piece that I think is very attractive to system administrators and developers is the ability to access the information in the data warehouse directly from within this platform. So what we're looking at here is actually a SQL query editor that allows us to perform selects and joins and develop queries as the underlying baseline for the information that's displayed in those charts and dashboards. So you can see here that I've got a live connection to the data warehouse. This is a list of available variables, and those who are familiar with the common SQL editor, you can type your queries in here. These queries can be run and saved, and they're able to be the data source for visualizations and ultimately aggregated and added to this dashboard as you see fit. So that's the end of the demonstration on the dashboarding technology. I wanted to thank the consortium on the GAP project and just share that it's been a really exciting development of this data pipeline, ingestion, and reporting process. We hope that it's fruitful for the future and that the OpenLMIS community and implementers are able to take it and run with it as we move forward with implementations.
Great, thanks so much, Craig. That was an excellent demonstration, and I'm sure people really appreciated seeing all these different possible visualizations and how easy it is to drill down to whatever level you need to get the reporting information that you need. So thanks a lot for that. And I saw a lot of questions coming in, so we will be sure to respond to those in our written responses following the webinar. But for now, I will turn the table over to Josh, who will talk about our DHIS2 interoperability.
Great, thanks Rebecca, and hello everyone. I just wanted to do a quick audio check. Am I coming through okay?
Yes.
All right, perfect. All right, so as Rebecca just mentioned, we're going to look at a new exciting capability for version 3.6, which is this ability to publish interoperable data for DHIS2 ingestion. So if we take a quick look at DHIS2, this is a tool that really doesn't need any introduction, but just in case you haven't seen this before, there are a number of links here. And what DHIS2 is a tool for collection, validation, analysis, and presentation of aggregate and patient-based statistical data tailored, but not limited, to integrated health information management activities. So what that means in a nutshell, and we can see a screenshot here from the DHIS2 demo, is that when we're thinking about moving information from OpenLMIS to DHIS2, we're really thinking about getting some supply chain metrics and indicators, right, very supply chain focused information into DHIS2, which will be able to present and do analysis with that data alongside other health information management data. So that's a very quick recap of what DHIS2 is. If you're interested, or if you don't know, you can follow some of these links and you can see the sources for where some of this information came from. Anyways, that's the quick intro for DHIS2. And now we're going to start talking about, well, how do we, as OpenLMIS in version 3.6, start getting data to DHIS2 from the supply chain domain? And so from the perspective of another system such as OpenLMIS, there's two ways to get data into DHIS2. One is to use the DHIS2 API. The other is to send an XML-based message, such as DXF or ADX, to DHIS2. But there's a key challenge here. And the key challenge is that the sender, such as OpenLMIS, needs to know the right address, for lack of a better word, in DHIS2 to send that data to. So if you kind of think of the message, in an envelope and we need a postal address or something along those lines, this is an analogy for what we're trying to discuss. Address is not the correct technical term, but if you think about that envelope with an address on it, that's one of the key challenges to getting data from one system to another system. And I do want to take a quick note here that this is not the first time that we've been able, or that an OpenLMIS implementation has sent information to DHIS2. There have been successful integrations of these two systems, but they're usually using internal identifiers between an OpenLMIS and internal identifier and a DHIS2 internal identifier. And so the solution that we're trying to look at here in 3.6, or that we have in 3.6, is to move away from internal identifiers and to get to shared codes. And when I say shared codes, I kind of mean shared addresses. I'm going to use that analogy throughout the rest of these slides. All right, so if we move on to looking at the big picture, and I'm just going to move through this really quickly. You don't have to understand everything here, but we have a number of systems that are on the slide, such as OpenLMIS and DHIS2, of course. We also have OpenMRS, OpenSRP, ERPs, etc. The thing to take away, excuse me, from this slide is that we have two very broad and very different domains. One is the supply chain management domain, and the other is the health service delivery management domain. And when we're thinking about these systems, Some of these systems are very focused within their respective domains, such as OpenLMIS, very focused on patient care, or OpenLMIS, very focused on supply chain. And then you have systems that are bridging the gap between these two domains. And so when we're thinking about shared addresses, we need to not only think about a coding system within one of these domains or an address within one of these domains. We need to think about coding systems or addresses that are able to span different domains. So we're going to look at a quick table, if we move to the next slide here, that gives us, and we won't go into detail, and this is a non-exhaustive table. And in the interest of time, I'll really move through this quickly. The key challenge is when we're looking at these cross-sector or cross-domain addresses, there really isn't just one address that makes everything or ties everything together, right? And so we do have some tools that we can use that can start bridging those gaps. And if we think about addresses for location, addresses for product, addresses for metrics and indicators, we do have some pieces that help us with that, and that's what we'll be looking at. But here there's a note in products, at least, that's a very complex space. There's a lot of different classification systems and nomenclatures, and there's a lot of work that's underway, such as the work with GS1 and other stakeholders that have done a lot here to start making this a shared coding space. And there's going to be things that are coming out in the future. However, right now, we're going to be looking more at locations and metrics and indicators rather than products. So just note that there's work that's being done here, and we're going to see some things in the future. Right now, when we're looking at locations and metrics and indicators, you should be noting these things in blue. And when you look at these things that are in blue, the fire location, the fire measure, and the fire report, they all start with the word fire. And so let's take a quick look at what is fire. So on the next slide here, we're going to look at fire. And really quickly, fire is an open standard from HL7 that anyone can use. And it's rapidly gaining attention both in the global health and healthcare space. And we might be familiar with it through the organization IHE's profiles, such as MCSD or the up-and-coming MADEX. But it's also getting traction in spaces we're not, all that, we're familiar with them, but they don't usually work in our space, such as Microsoft, Apple, and Google. They all have fire solutions or products. And so the point with this is to say, fire is really gaining attention internationally as a standard for interoperability. And so when we're thinking about moving data from OpenLMIS across different domains to DHIS2, this can really help us. So if we look at this little chart, what we're seeing is we have these fire measure reports, and these things contain the meat of the information that we want to get over to DHIS2. Things like stock out days, stock status, consumed quantity, and received quantity. These fire measure reports have that data. The boxes that are around the measure reports, the green ones and the orange ones, these are the addresses that we would put on that, that analogy for an envelope that we want to send to the right location. So what we have is the ability to describe all of this data with, let's say, a location. And that fire location is also able to cross-map to different coding systems. So if you have a master facility list, and it has a facility list code, that fire location can map to that facility list code. It can also map, if OpenLMIS has a different code, it can map to that code. And if DHIS2, the organization unit, has yet another code, it can map to that code as well. So we have a way to store a mapping for all these different locations within one fire location message. Similarly, for the definition of the metric, let's say we want to make sure that we have a common understanding of what stockout days or stock status means between OpenLMIS and DHIS2. We have a way to describe what that thing means. And also, just like anything else in fire, we have a way to cross-map those codes, those fire definitions, to other coding systems. So that, in a nutshell, is what fire is. And if we move on to the next piece, we'll talk about how we can use this with DHIS2. So the first thing to note is that, of course, this is available in version 3.6. If you upgrade to version 3.6, you get this automatic ability to have these metrics defined in a fire measure and measure report, and it works with fire location. One thing to note here, though, is that this is not yet a turnkey solution. As Wes noted in the beginning, it's not yet just plug and play. You do need to do a little bit of work if you're going to move data between the two systems. And so you can follow Malawi's lead and build a lightweight connector which can leverage Fire. And if you follow this link here, we have a lot more information about the Fire spec. And you can follow that to find out all the information about how you could build that connector. The last thing I'll note here is to stay tuned, because OpenLMIS and DHIS2 communities are actively working toward one another. And you're going to see, like I said, there's a lot of exciting things that are happening here, and you're going to see a lot more easier and quicker Fire-based interoperability tools that are coming out in a short time here. So stay tuned. And with that, I'd like to turn it back to you, Rebecca.
Thanks so much, Josh. This is very exciting, what we're doing with DHIS2. And we've been hearing a lot about the continuing trend for more and more countries to continue adopting DHIS2. So I know that this makes that feature all the more valuable to our users. So we're excited to see people putting this into place in the near future. So thanks. And now we're going to hear next from Dan to talk to us about hosting.
Yes, this is Dan Kokos, CTO at Bao Systems. And to kind of feed into the interoperability, Bao Systems started mostly doing DHIS2 hosting and consulting. We currently host, I think we're close to 400 DHIS2 instances. It's all cloud-based. We have plans that allow for high availability and monitoring and everything you would kind of want to not have to worry about managing your DHIS2 system. We've been through audits for compliance for all regulatory needs, depending on who you're working with. And what we're offering now also is OpenLMIS hosting, where we can work with you and your team to kind of integrate your DHIS2 system with your OpenLMIS system, and you don't really have to worry about having technical staff on hand to set up, maintain, and upgrade your systems. I think that's about it from my perspective. Great.
Thanks a lot, Dan. We look forward to people picking up on this, and it sounds like a great service. So we look forward to hearing more. And in the interest of time, we're going to keep pushing forward to make sure we can fit in all of our information. Josh, do you want to take the reins again and talk about the management of kits in OpenLMIS?
Of course. All right, so let's take a quick look at kitting within OpenLMIS. This is a new feature that allows us to to more easily track kits, especially with regards to stock management. So let's first take a look at what is a kit. And if we, here we go. So we have a number of examples here on the screen of what a kit is, but I think the thing that really, brings it home, like the easiest example, is a first aid kit. So a kit is a product that contains other products, but those products are all different from each other. So they have bandages and scissors and pharmaceuticals and things like that. And so in OpenLMIS, we now have this ability to manage kits. So if we look at the next slide, the problem that we are solving is that the problem that we're solving is that before this capability in 3.6, when you were working with kits, a kit would be a product, but you wouldn't, and when you unpacked it, you wouldn't have this ability to know, to trace the ability to say, okay, well, I had this kit, I unpacked it, now I have all these other products in inventory, and what was the relationship between that action? So in 3.6, you now have the ability to easily create a kit through the administration screen, and you can define a kit, and you can give all of its constituent products. And you also, in stock management, have these new first order actions that you can do, which is unpacking the kit. So let's take a look at two screenshots really quickly. The first is this administration screen. We can see that we're creating a kit, like this first aid kit. So again, you can do this right through the administration screen, create a kit, define its product. Let's look at unpacking a kit. And on this slide, here we have on the right-hand side of the screen, that's a quick screenshot of the menu item for stock management. And you see that just alongside issue and receive and all of the actions that you might take, you can also now unpack a kit. And if you were to select that, you would see that you would have this kit, and you can unpack all of the kits or one or more of the kits that you have in inventory. So you could select the first aid kit, And when you unpacked that kit, you would decrement or decrease the number of first aid kits you have in inventory, and you would automatically increase the number of all the bandages and scissors and pharmaceuticals that are in that first aid kit into inventory. So it makes it very quick and easy to manage kits and to unpack kits for your storeroom people. And with that, Rebecca, I'd like to turn it back to you.
Great, thanks. That was a very perfect, concise description. And I'll just add on to that kitting piece that the reason overall that we ended up adding this function was actually originally due to feedback that we received from our community of users. So the addition of this kitting feature is a good example of how we, as an OpenLMIS community, use the feedback that we get to continue to improve our product and ensure that it stays relevant for our users. So I want to just quickly touch on a couple of resources that we'll send out to you in the follow-up email. One is just the URL for our website for anyone who wants to dig in a little bit more and get information about where we're working, what we're doing, more information about features and tools. We also have a toolkit on our website that's available for implementers with lots of tools that we've taken from past implementations to share. We have a very detailed wiki that we maintain as a sort of an internal community workspace where we document our meeting notes and talk about how our committees work. So if you ever want to see sort of what's going on inside of the community and how we engage and the information that we're taking and using to build our product roadmap, you can look at our wiki, and I'll send that link around. And lastly, we have a YouTube channel. So anytime you want to take a minute or two to look at a quick demo video or to see one of our past webinars, you can feel free to look at our YouTube channel. And that, for me, was the last piece. Thank you, everyone. That's the end of our actual content. I wonder if we can maybe we do have a couple minutes left, if we could take one or two questions with our remaining time. Sierra, are you able to read out a question?
Yeah, I did get a couple of just private messages asking about signing up for the updates and getting the invitations for these webinars. So if there are still a few people that wanted to make sure to do that, that is at the website that Rebecca shared, openlmis.org, and then you go to sign up for e-news. And then let's see, one of the questions that I captured was during Josh's portion of the presentation. Somebody asked if OpenLMIS supports a multi-level supply chain, so moving things from central to the district level and then out to the last mile.
Sure. Does somebody want to talk through a little bit about the workflow for OpenLMIS and how we handle multi-level supply chains and how products move from one level to the next?
I could take that. I'm not sure I'm the best one to take it, but I could take that. So just really briefly, so if I understand the question correctly, the quick answer is yes. OpenLMIS can help you track where supplies are and where requests are going throughout the system. So if you generally think of the request going up, the requisition going up, it does move through the different levels. And when the supplies are coming back, there's multiple options, right? We said that OpenLMIS is very configurable. There are multiple options for that shipment, how that shipment is created, how that fulfillment is done, and how that is tracked through the supply chain. So in general, the way that I would think about this is it's generally not a system that is tracking your transport, but it is tracking where your supplies are. So if your supplies are dropped off at a location, a mid-tier, supply warehouse facility or a storeroom, then you can track where those supplies are and in general where they're going. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, I think that was a great answer. Thanks a lot. And because we are at the top of the hour, I think we may have to cut off the Q&A. I'm sorry that we didn't have time to cover more of that. But as I mentioned, we will write out responses to all the questions that have come in. I do see that there are quite a few, and we really appreciate all of the comments and feedback that we're getting over the chat. We love to hear more from you. So feel free to write any last minute comments in, and I think from here we will wrap up. So
Rebecca, we just want to mention too that if there are other questions, we do have the discourse form that people can use. You can log in, you can register yourself if you want. If you already have an account on there, you can just ask questions in any one of the forums in there. And that would be another place where you can ask questions and get feedback as well.
Great. Yeah, that's a great point, Wes. I'll also include the link to the discourse online forum that we maintain in the follow-up email, so that anyone who wants to engage more and keep this conversation going can do so with the OpenLMIS community over discourse. Great. So thank you all again for joining. We appreciate your time and look forward to engaging with you more. Thanks.